out of it. I did. A couple weeks ago, more than a couple weeks ago, Pastor Brad said, be ready because I'm going to do a tag team. And I just kept stressing over that like a couple weeks ago. Thinking, what am I going to do? Do I get a message from Lord? Just give me a message so I can show up my bag and, let me have something. And he began to speak to me and said, if you read my word and you study, he said, when the time comes, he said, I'll give you what you need.
Amen.
And I thought, okay, Lord. And then Pastor Brad came to me this morning and told me about this plan, and he gave me my scriptures. And the first thing that went through my mind, I thought, that's it? I get 2 scriptures. This is just going to be great. I get 2 scriptures. Alrighty. And we're driving down the road, and you can ask Ben. I said, he just gave me 2 scriptures. What am I going to do with that? And he goes, what song says that? And I said, well, I think it's the one that starts off, the Lord is my shepherd. He goes, yeah. He gets out his Bible, and he's reading his version. I can't remember what version he has. But he started off, it said, the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. And I thought, ooh, I like that. Okay, we can work with this. So I go to the store and do what we need to do, and I come back home, and okay, I have an hour, maybe less. And I get out my study Bible, and I open it up, and I begin to read. And I have the NLT version, and it says, the Lord is my shepherd, I have all that I need. And I smacked myself in the forehead, and I thought, oh, you are so right. And then I go on down, and I'm reading, and I see this little section in the corner, my study Bible, and it says, Psalms, the 23rd Psalm, is a psalm of confidence and trust. And I literally, my little notebook here, I picked it up and I smacked myself in the forehead again. And he goes, did you just really smack yourself in the forehead? I said, I did. I said, the Lord's really getting me with this one. And I said, it's a good thing he just gave me these 2 scriptures. Because I said, I think they were meant for me. But I went on and I was looking, and the word shepherd, the Lord is my shepherd, it stuck out to me, and I thought, we all know what a shepherd is. A shepherd, leads sheep. And I was reading down here, and it says the description of a shepherd. Number 1 is a person who tends or rears sheep. Or it means to guide or direct in a particular direction. Also is a person who tends to, herds, who feeds, and guards from harm. And that stuck out to me because I thought, how often do we hear this scripture read to us? And do we not think about God guiding us? He feeds us, directs us, and guards us from harm. I mean, we just read that and we think, oh, that's a pretty scripture. But do we think of what it actually means? How often do the Lord try to steer us and take care of us, and we just go off and do our own direction and to do our own thing? And I thought about the other day when it was raining so hard, the Lord brought this to mind. Aiden over there loves water puddles. And we were out, and he had brand new shoes on and pants, and I had him on the hand, and he's going this way, and he's like, water money. And I'm like, no, you stay out of that water, or I'm going to whip you. But no, I'm going this way. He's going this way. And I'm like, no, you have to stay, and you have to follow mommy. You cannot go over into that water. And I'm pulling, and we make it almost where we're going, and he lets loose in my hand, and he goes over, water everywhere. Made a huge mess. How often do we do that? God says, here, we're going this way. I need you to go this way. I need you to go here. And how often we go, nope, I'm going over here, and I'm going to stop this mud puddle, and I'm going to make a mess. And then what does he do? He has to come along and steer us back in the right direction and clean us up.
That's good.
And I was thinking, the same way when God was calling me to preach, I testified before that I wasn't able to come to church a lot because I was in so much pain. And God took my path, and he said, okay, here, you're healed. Now you can go to church. You don't have any excuse. You can go. And I go. And then he says, okay, your path is going to be this. You are going to preach. No, 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 no. I don't think so. I'm going this way, Lord. I don't want to do that. I'm not letting you direct me down that path that you want. I want over here. And then what happens? I jerk away from the one who's protecting me, and I make a mess of things.
Yeah. That's good.
And I just keep thinking, Lord, how many times have I read this scripture? How many times have I read that? And it has never, ever spoken to me the way it did today. And I was thinking, Lord, even though that we stray, you got us back. You give us rest. You give us that peace that we need. And even when things don't look good, and sometimes when it looks kind of dark, and I was thinking, we cleaned up our yard the other day, and we had an old kiddie pool out in the yard. And it had been sitting there. And when something sits in your grass, and you pick it up, your grass is all brown and nasty and gross. And I was thinking about that. I thought, all it takes is a little bit of time, and a little bit of water, and a little bit of leaving that section alone, and it goes back to being green like it was before. And I thought, Lord, that is amazing how you do that. We go and we mess things up, and you bring us right back and make us new, make us the way we were before, and even better.
Yeah.
And I mean, Pastor Brown might have only given me 2 scriptures, but I tell you what, I had a whole notebook at the house that I was making up. I'm thinking, Lord, this is just so good. And I thank Him for making me new and guiding my path to where it should be. And I might not be 100% where I ought to be, but I'm getting closer. And, last but not least, just make sure you give the Lord your time. Let Him be your shepherd. Let Him guide you. Let Him feed you. And He'll be everything else that you need. Well, that was 10 minutes.
I guess I could have steps. Roman was laughing at me this afternoon. He said, "Do you carry both them Bibles to church?" I said, "Well, not usually." So I thought I'd just bring it in. I was a teenager when Mom gave me this Bible. And it's dry rotted on the outside, but it's almost a seminary in itself. So usually when I study, I have to have this one. We were joking about it. I was up to Rudy's because tomorrow's Mari's birthday. He's our Patriot baby. And I wanted to spend some time with Amari, so I went up to Rudy's, carrying my Bible, my study papers and stuff with me. And so Joanne was working today, so I thought I'd just take some things up there to throw in the oven. Ended up making a full meal for the kids. And Roman and his kids came over, so here I am. I was telling them, I said, 4 o'clock, I've got to preach in a tag team, and they were just so proud of me and joke about. And I might have told you here a while back about Roman borrowing a version of the Bible and then bringing it back a few days later, and he left a note in it with a verse written, and he said, "At least my Bible hath all its verses." And this particular version of the Bible had left out that verse that he was talking about, probably others. So I was sitting up there talking about what Brad had assigned us to preach on, and how I was excited we were going to be a tag team and everything. And I said, "Well, give me Rudy's Message Bible. Let me see if it's got a 23rd Psalm in it." Ron didn't get it at first. And he said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, you remember that verse that you found?" And I had to remind him what he'd done. So he looked up the 23rd Psalm there, and surely it did have the 23rd Psalm, but it was unrecognizable. And I just looked at a few words. I said, "Get it away from me. I don't even want to look at it. It's going to mess me up." So I got my 2 King James versions that I brought with me. I didn't bring the 3rd one. And we got to talking about different things, and Roman was instructing me with some things. My sons have gotten to where they're the ones that instruct me now. Rudy, we were talking while I was cooking, Rudy was talking about something being seasoned, in other words, being mature. And I looked at him kind of funny. He said, that means, mature and everything. I said, yeah, I know what it means. I just didn't know you knew the word. So Roman showed me that he was a seasoned Bible scholar by sharing some things out of the 23rd Psalm. And I was telling him, when I left the house, I grabbed everything I could, got Amari's presents and got some food to fix for him and everything. And I had thought, I've got this book I remember reading a long time ago, and I thought that I might be able to spice it up a little bit if I kind of refresh my memory. And it's called A Shepherd Looks at the 23rd Psalm. You might have heard of it. Phil Keller, I believe, is the author of it. I thought, I know exactly where that is. I can go in there and put my hand on it right now. So I went back in the house and reached to grab that book, and I looked at it, and it wasn't A Shepherd Looks at the 23rd Psalm. It was A Gardener Looks at the Fruits of the Spirit. So I don't know where my shepherd book is. So I thought, well, Lord, I'll just have to read what you like. And much like Brittany, the Lord shows himself very able in times of need. And so I got to looking at the verses that I was assigned. And it starts out, He restored my soul. And of course, we're referring back to verse 1 that says, the Lord is my shepherd. The Lord being our provider, our protector. And this is the role that He plays. The whole thing is about the relationship between the shepherd and the sheep. How the Lord is compared to a shepherd, how we are compared to sheep, and how we fulfill those roles. So He is our shepherd, He's our provider, and He is quite capable. I was reminded of a time back years ago when I was going to the Methodist Church in Mason. I started going there because I hadn't been going to church for a while. And the pastor that was there at the time, his name was Benny Stevens, and he had been assigned to be the chaplain at Lincoln. So sometimes the chaplain at Lincoln was the only word that I got when I would take the residents in for their services. And sometimes under conviction, as a child of God that backslid, I would stand there when he was preaching these little sermons to these little people on this childlike level. I would stand there crying under conviction. And so when I started going to church, I started going to Pastor Benny's church because he's the one I had related to. And so I was going to the Sunday school class, and in that class I found was a teacher that I had when I was in high school. Her name was Carol Hickman. Later became Carol Browning, and we dearly loved each other, even back there in high school. And so we were there one day, they were talking about the 23rd Psalm and the sheep and everything. And I said, well, I was down at work one day, they had this old copy of Progressive Farmer in the lounge, and I got to reading this thing about sheep, what it says about sheep, and I said, that article says that there are hundreds and hundreds of species of sheep and goats, and that sometimes you can't tell the sheep from the goat. The only way you can tell the difference is by their DNA. And I said that, and that got me to thinking, only God knows the difference between sheep and goats. And I got to thinking about where He said He was going, the sheep were going to be divided from the goats, and the spiritual aspect. And I said that means only God knows the difference between sheep and goat. And so somebody piped up and said, what in the world were you doing reading about sheep? And Carol Hickman said, that's just Kay. You just got to know Kay. So the thought of the shepherd and the sheep, is something that has run deep for me for a long time. And God is our shepherd, our provider, our protector. He's the one that leads and guides. And sheep can't be driven. Sheep have a little brain, and there's certain aspects about a sheep that, one of those things is you can't get behind it and push it, you've got to lead it. That means it's got to trust whoever is leading it, whoever's in control. And so He, meaning God,
starting in the 3rd verse, now we'll start. He restores my soul. To restore is to renew, refresh, and to re-nourish. And that means when something has a re in front of it, that means that it was there at one time, and it was gone for some reason, and now we're redoing it, we're restoring, we're re-nourishing. Sometimes in our life path, we get sidetracked and we might go, physically we might have to go without fluids for a while, we might have to go without food, we might go with improper nourishment. We might eat and eat and eat and still be malnourished because we're eating the wrong things. We might drink and drink and drink, but still we might have an electrolyte imbalance in our system because we're drinking the wrong thing. So God knows what we need. Not just that we need something stuffed in us, but He knows exactly the content of what we need. And He renews, refreshes, and re-nourishes us. He restores our soul. He restores every aspect of our being. A lot of times when we talk about soul, we're talking about just our ego, our thought life and stuff. But in some cases in the Bible, it means every aspect of our being. He can restore that. He can bring it back to what they call the shalom peace of God, which is nothing missing, nothing broken, everything perfect. So He restores our soul, and so He goes about rehydrating us spiritually and just giving us what we need. He leads us in paths of righteousness. Paths of righteousness is right paths. Righteousness being the goodness of God, the right things of God, in paths of righteousness. So to lead us, as I say, a sheep has to be led. It can't be pushed. It can't be driven. So there are many places in the Bible that, as we say, we have the mind of God, which means we make our own choices. He says, I hold before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Behold, choose life. In other words, it's your choice. I'm holding both of these before you, just like He told Adam in the garden. You have all these trees to choose from. This is one tree I'm telling you not to eat of that tree. But you got everything else to choose from. And so man ended up partaking of the one tree he wasn't supposed to be partaking of. And, the thing goes on. On and on and on. And God gives us these choices. And when we choose the right thing, we're blessed by God. We are re-nourished and refreshed and stuff. If we choose the wrong thing, it's just like He holds a glass of clean water and a glass of dirty water in front of us, and you can have either one you want. But I prefer that you use this. It would be better for you. It would be in your best interest if you take the clean water. But you can choose what you want. And unfortunately, a lot of times man, who has a bigger brain than the sheep and should know better, chooses the wrong thing. And a lot of times the sheep, with its inborn trust of the shepherd, when the shepherd guides it in the right direction, the sheep will go the right way. It kind of reminds me of a joke I used to tell about the Jonah being swallowed by a fish, and God telling the fish to spit it back up. And I said, in science we learned that a whale is a mammal, and it has a bigger brain than a fish. And there were arguments over the years of whether it was really a big fish or whether it was a whale, because those are two different things. I said, well, if it was a big fish, when God said spit it up, it probably just spit it up because it did what its creator told it to. But if it was a whale, God probably had to convince it with its higher functioning brain that it was in its best interest to spit it up, because he probably said, you look like you swallowed something that disagreed with you. You better spit it up. So it depends on the brain, how the brain functions. And we are, time and time again, compared to sheep, and how the sheep just have, short attention span. The reason a lot of times that they're led in green pastures is because where they stay out there, when it talks about green pasture, some of the studies that I've done shows that the green pasture means there's just a bite here and a bite there, and the rest of it's rocky, craggy, hillside. Still waters is because something about a sheep's brain can't concentrate if the water is flowing, so they need the still fresh water to drink, and they won't be nourished if they don't. God knows exactly what we need, and He knows how to provide it if we would just listen. Has the righteousness for His name's sake. If you remember times when Moses was leading the Hebrew children, there were times when they made God so mad. He said, just move away, but it's not just go wipe them off the face of the earth. And he said, just, like He told Abraham, He said, I'll make of you a great nation. He told Moses, just let me kill all these, and I'll just make of you a great nation. And Moses would say, no, please. He said, we've come this far, and we've done this for you, and you've said this. And He said, if you do this in the Egyptians, you're going to see what you did, and they are going to make fun of you, because you were making this big hoopla about bringing all these people out, and this was your chosen people, and they were going to do the right thing. And so Moses again and again would come to intercede for the children of Israel. And for God's name's sake, He saved. He would change His mind and decide not to, which, this is just me talking, but I would say God didn't really mean that He was going to, but He was perfecting Moses' leadership abilities. And Moses, as the shepherd at that time, was interceding for his sheep. And so God was making Moses stronger by putting him in that position. Moses could have been considered the father of the Jews, of the Hebrews, but he chose instead to intercede for the Hebrews. And for that cause, for God's name's sake, He didn't destroy the Hebrews in the wilderness. So He's leading them in paths of righteousness for His name's sake. I wanted to bring up too the paths of righteousness that I was talking about. Where the sheep would be, where the shepherd takes them, is like a craggy, rocky hillside place. And sometimes if they go the wrong direction, there's hardly any way, if they wander off, they might fall off the hillside. And if they get on their back, a sheep can't get itself back up. It has to be picked up because they are physically unable to pick themselves up. Does that remind you of maybe a place in your life where you were spiritually unable to recover yourself and God had to pick you up and lead you back into the paths of righteousness? But those rocky hillsides a lot of times are places where that happens, and they might get into a place and the shepherd will have to just physically back them up because there's no place to turn around. There's nothing else for them to do. So the shepherd has to physically back that sheep up and turn them in a different direction. And that reminds me of one of Daddy's sayings. Daddy said you don't get in the water until you learn how to swim. You don't get behind the wheel of a car until you learn how to drive. And never, ever pull into a driveway that you can't back out of. And when we learned about the sheep, it just sounded like something that Daddy taught me about years ago. So His namesake is the purpose, that's the why, that God does what He does. As the shepherd leading the sheep, one study that I did that would tell you that anything and everything that God does is for our good and for His glory. So for our good and for His name's sake, He leads us in the paths of righteousness. Okay. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, anything to do with shadows and darkness usually deals with death. And God is the one that leads us out because the entrance of His word brings light. In Him is light and in Him is no darkness at all. And so when we are in the valley of the shadow of death, those shadows, I will fear no evil. The Lord's Prayer says, deliver us from evil, or some translations say the evil one, deliver us from evil. And so God is well able to deliver us from that evil. Thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. The rod and the staff are tools of correction. The shepherd might have to hit the sheep with the rod. He might have to take that hook on that staff and get over the sheep by the neck and pull. Sometimes in those crazy places where they fall over, the only thing you can do is take that hook and lift the sheep up with the hook and get it back on the right path. So those are correctional things. Just like the law was correctional, and David said, I love your law. And it reminded me of when Roman was in grade school, and the cooks would say, he just loves to eat. He just, comes back for seconds. And so I said something to him about when the cook said that he loved to eat. He said, oh, and just got a dreamy look on his face. He said, I love their ovens. Now the oven is old, and it's dark and black and nasty looking on the outside, because I worked in the kitchen. I know the industrial ovens ain't nothing pretty, but he loved what came out of that oven. Just like David loved the law, because he loved the correction that came from the law. He loved knowing that God loved us so much that he wanted to give us a law to live by. And he wanted us to go in those right paths. So when he said, thy rod and my staff, they comfort me, he was thinking about the secureness of God creating the law, and the law being our rod and staff that comforts us and that directs us. And so we know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, what God wants us to do. My time's up, ain't it? So, God loves us with an unfailing love, and I wanted to read, because one psalm is not enough. Psalm 119 to finish it up. It ought to be easy to find. It's the biggest psalm there is. Psalm 119, verses 33. Teach me, O Lord, the way of thy statutes, and I shall keep it unto the end. Give me understanding, and I shall keep thy law. Yea, I shall observe it with my whole heart. Make me to go in the path of thy commandments, for therein do I delight. Incline my heart unto thy testimonies, and not to covetousness. So he was begging God to teach him the laws, to write those laws in his heart, in another place it says, thy word have I hid in my heart, that I might not sin against God. So we love the correction. We love it because it's a sign that God loves us. And the 23rd Psalm is a sign, from shepherd to sheep, that God loves us enough to correct us, loves us enough to keep us on the right path, for his name's sake and for our good and his glory.
Awesome. Man, when he brought this on us today, I kind of first I was worried, but then when he told me what it was, God gave me something a while back. I saw it maybe last year, the year before. I've always wanted to do this with the table. So I got 5 and 6. And the end of K's, verse 4 kind of leads right into mine. It talks about protecting and comfort. It kind of leads right into what I'm going to talk about a little bit. I'll probably take 10 minutes. It says, thou preparest a table before me. Pay attention to this part. In the presence of my enemies. He doesn't say that I prepare the table before you and with all sunshines and rainbows and all that good stuff. It says, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Now when I think about the table, I think about life. It's just like my garden, it's my life. And I think that's what David's talking about here. You prepared this life for me. He's talking to God. He says, God, you have prepared this life for me in the presence of my enemies. And you got to keep in mind, when you go back and look at John 16:33, it says, in life we have trials and tribulations, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. And that's what David's saying here. He's saying, you prepared this life for me. There's all this stuff. But you prepared a place for me in it. And you're going to face things. Nowhere in the Bible does it say you repent, be baptized, be saved, and just have awesome good times. It doesn't say that. I wish it did. I wish it was like the greatest thing ever, and it is, but you're going to have tough times. We all fight with stuff. And here lately I've been hearing a lot of people's testimonies about things, and I hear about some of the stuff people struggle with, and talking about with different youth pastors about these kids and the stuff they face and what we faced when we were kids is totally different. The kids are facing totally different stuff than what I did. But you gotta remember something. You know, it's real easy when you're sitting here at the table and you're looking and you're Satan sitting at the table with you. You know, this is your life. You know, he's sitting here looking from the outside in. He's sitting at the table with you. And you got Satan sitting over here. And you got depression over here. You know, you would be amazed how many people I've heard are fighting with depression these days. Money. How many people have problems with bills sometimes? I do it all the time. I should cut myself short about 4 days before payday. And the whole time you're sitting here at this table, and you're looking at all these people, and you're sitting here, and it's real easy to sit here and you're looking. I know you guys probably can't see when I sit down, but that's good. And you're sitting here at this table, and you got Satan over here, and you got all the things that he's using against you. And how easy is it to get overwhelmed and just think, man, what kind of dinner party is this? What kind of banquet is this? What kind of table have you prepared for me? Look at this. You know, you're facing depression, you're facing maybe abuse, maybe you're facing money problems or marital problems, and it consumes you. But there's something I think that people often forget, and this is, you gotta keep in mind, this is your life. Who set the table for you in the first place? Sometimes we forget. You got to remember that you're sitting on this end and you're looking at all the junk that's going on. But if you look across the table, there's God who set the table for you in the first place. You know, He's there, but none of this matters. None of this matters, and I'll tell you why. I could seriously be up here for a while. You ever remember who set the table? Because He said, "I'll never leave you nor forsake you." It's not like He set the table and took off and went on vacation.
Amen.
You know, He's still there for you. And you got to keep your eyes on Him. Because I'll tell you what He did. He's hosting a banquet. When I started reading and doing some little studying on stuff that's in this verse, they referred to it as a banquet. They said that David was referring to as he's having a banquet in your honor. This is your life. This is God's banquet in your honor. And here's what's really good. He's having a banquet in your honor, and He's making all the people who's coming against you watch. He's making the devil and everybody who wants to hurt you and all the stuff who wants to come against you, He's making them watch. And you're having a one-on-one candle lit with Him. And I'll tell you what, we start getting in trouble when you start taking your eyes off Him and looking around at what's on everybody's plate. When you start looking over here and say, I'm guilty. And Cindy, I'm guilty. I get down to the dumps a little bit sometimes. I'm cranky and I'm moody. And I start looking over on the side and I'm like, it's GM thing, you know, what I wanted. And I started worrying about it. Guess what? I take my eyes off of it. I don't have that intimate candlelit dinner anymore. Now it's more kind of a chaotic dinner at KFC. But he's doing it in your honor. You know, David's saying he prepared a table before my enemies. And he goes on and he says, that anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. You know, everybody's heard that 100 times, but in the Jewish society, when it talks about anointing with oil, it's like there's like a practice of welcoming a guest into your home. Also a sign of rejoicing. You know, for many different reasons. I guess your births and birthdays and weddings and stuff. You would anoint people. That's a way of rejoicing and celebrating. And He's doing all this stuff in front of all the junk that's bothering you. All the depression, all the stuff that you're messing around with, the stuff that's coming against you, the bills and the whatever. He's doing it right in front of you. He's making you the absolute guest of honor if you'll let Him. If you keep your eyes on Him. It says, in that New Living Translation, it says, honor me by anointing me, and my cup overflows with blessings. What David's saying here is if you keep your eye on the Lord, and you keep Him in mind, and forget about all this other junk, He will send the blessings to you in abundance. You know, we hear that a lot in the Bible. You have life more abundantly. He will send you in abundance, more than you can possibly handle. So all the stuff that you want, you've got and then some. And I'm going to tell you, it took me a very long time. I'm going to preach on the youth service, but it took me a long time to realize that if you just stay in that candlelit dinner with Him, He'll start giving you more than you ever asked for.
Right.
You know, I didn't ask for everything I've gotten in the last month, but I'm way full. You know, and there's so much happens when I finally just stopped what I was worrying about and started hanging out with him. It says he honors you for staying vigilant and faithful in the midst of your troubles and enemies. Your blessings shall be more than you can fathom. Remaining with God leads you in the midst. Try to shorten this. But it's something to think about. How many times have you sit and worried so much about how you're going to pay the bills this week to the point where you don't even spend any time worrying about what have you done for God this week? Are you reading your Bible? Are you coming to church or going regular? Are you late for church more than you usually are? And you know, I joke about that, but it's serious. I mean, it took my friend telling me, because I kind of noticed, like, I started slipping away from where I should be. You know, it's easy to do. You're sitting at a table with your enemies. You're sitting there, your life is surrounded by them. And it's really easy to kind of, how many times you sit at the dinner table and look at what somebody else is eating? I watched her brother eat mashed potatoes and carrots smashed up the other day like it was, I don't know, like he was famous or something. You do it. And the same thing in your life. You're sitting at the table, you can't help but look over, you know, and this depression thing, you know, you get down to the dumps and then you start thinking about it, and you're even more down the dumps, and you're just like, and then you keep thinking about it, and then guess what? The blessings can't come across the table because everybody else is grabbing them before you're seeing them. You know, they're just wiping them off. You know, you got Satan there. So you got to keep in mind, don't lose what you got sitting across from you because of what's around you. See what I'm saying? We go on to verse 6 and it says, surely your goodness and unfailing love will pursue me all the days of my life. I will live in the house of the Lord forever. So if you are having this intimate candlelit dinner with your Lord, His love will pursue you. You don't have to go looking for it. It'll find you. It'll find you. And even when you're off kind of over here, He's trying. He's trying to pursue you. You just have to turn your head back forward and look across the table. I just think I would probably mess it late with that. Just keep across the table. Pay attention to who you're sitting across from, not who's around you. You know, it's real easy. You got to dinner. I'm looking around. I'm a people watcher. But you can't do that in life. You can't be a people watcher. You can't watch what's around you and what's bothering you. You got to stay with who's across from you. Have that intimate relationship. His love will pursue you. And even, I was sitting at my desk and I got the word listen, so I wrote it down. I like that part. If you want to write down Matthew 10:22 even. It says, you'll be persecuted for my name's sake, but he who endures to the end will be saved. Well, he who is saved is what? Will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So it kind of goes with, I will live in the house of the Lord forever. It's all about getting to your destination without everybody at the table stealing your scraps.